The story begins in a village called Rezembol, where people practiced a mystical art called alchemy. Through alchemy, even iron objects could be turned into gold. Some people even attempted to use this art to bring the dead back to life, but it was rumored that any mistake during the process could lead to catastrophic consequences. We are then introduced to two brothers, Edward and Alphonse, who had been learning alchemy since childhood. They conducted experiments using books from their library. One day, they made a toy and ran to show it to their mother. Suddenly, their mother suffered a heart attack and died on the spot. With no one left to care for them, Edward suggested they could bring their mother back to life using alchemy. Alphonse was hesitant, warning of the dangers and potential disasters, but Edward managed to convince him. They gathered all the materials mentioned in the book and placed them inside a magical circle. As they began chanting incantations, a tremendous energy erupted from the circle, creating a terrifying whirlwind that destroyed their entire house. 20 years later, Edward is seen chasing a priest who possesses a mysterious red stone. This stone was believed to be the Philosopher's Stone, which could perform alchemy without much effort. The priest used the stone to summon massive pillars to attack Edward and unleashed strange, monstrous creatures after him. In response, Edward drew out his magical staff, revealing himself as an alchemist too. At that moment, a robot-like figure appeared and killed all the monstrous creatures one by one. However, when its helmet fell, it was revealed to have no body. Meanwhile, Edward himself had metal arms and legs, earning him the title of Full Metal Alchemist. Edward ultimately punched the priest with his metal hand, causing the red stone to fall. He thought his mission was complete, but then Colonel Mustang and his soldiers arrived, arresting both the priest and Edward. When Edward pointed to the red stone, calling it the Philosopher's Stone, Colonel Mustang revealed it was fake. Edward was devastated, as he had been searching for the stone for years. The robot-like figure then reappeared, and it was revealed to be Alphonse, Edward's brother. Later, they all reached a military base, where Colonel Mustang explained that the Philosopher's Stone didn't exist. The stone the priest had was functioning due to its unique powers. However, Edward still believed the Philosopher's Stone was out there and vowed to find it to restore his brother's body and his own limbs. On their way home, Edward met his childhood friend, Winry. Upon hearing Edward's story, Winry offered to help him search for the stone. Meanwhile, the priest managed to escape the military's grasp and reached a hidden room where 3 magical gangsters were waiting for him. Their leader, Lust, was joined by a tall woman named Envy, who could shapeshift into anyone, and a boy named Gluttony, who could devour anything. Lust was angry at the priest for failing his mission and used her long arms to strangle him to death. After his death, Gluttony ate him whole. Elsewhere, Edward struggled to sleep, haunted by memories of the failed experiment 20 years ago. He recalled being pulled to the Gate of Truth, a place where all the universe's knowledge was hidden. As the gate opened, terrifying hands dragged him inside. Edward found himself flying rapidly through the cosmos and saw his mother. He reached out to touch her but was immediately thrown back out of the gate. However, he now possessed complete knowledge of alchemy. Suddenly, a shadowy figure appeared, warning him that to bring someone back to life, a part of his body would have to be sacrificed. Desperate to bring his mother back, Edward offered his leg. When he woke up, he found himself at home, but his leg was gone, and Alphonse was nowhere to be seen. Edward realized Alphonse had likely sacrificed himself to bring their mother back. Returning to the magical circle, Edward found a grotesque creature that was nothing like their mother. Enraged, he knocked over a suit of armor and performed another ritual to bring Alphonse back. Once again, he was pulled to the Gate of Truth. This time, he sacrificed his arm to save his brother. When he regained consciousness, Alphonse was alive but trapped in a suit of armor. In the present, Colonel Mustang took Edward, Alphonse, and Winry to meet Tucker, an alchemist, hoping he could provide information about the Philosopher's Stone. Tucker showcased several of his creations, including animals he had fused together to create new creatures. After hearing Edward's story, Tucker promised to help him as much as he could. Edward and Winry then traveled by train to another city to meet Dr. Marco, who supposedly had knowledge about the Philosopher's Stone. However, upon reaching his house, Dr. Marco mistook them for enemies and started shooting at Edward and Winry. Edward had to knock Marco unconscious to save himself. After regaining consciousness, Marco advised Edward that it would be better if he didn't pursue the truth about the Philosopher's Stone. Suddenly, Marco sensed something and fired a shot at the window. It was then revealed that the gangster Lust had been spying on them and was slowly advancing toward them. Marco fired several bullets at her, but they had no effect. Lust pinned everyone to the wall and stabbed Marco in the chest. Before succumbing to his injuries, Marco used his final moments to tell Edward that the truth about the Philosopher's Stone could be found in Laboratory 5, a secret facility used by the military. With that, Marco died. Edward immediately went to Tucker's house, where he discovered that Tucker had fused a human and a dog into a grotesque creature. Tucker revealed that for this experiment, he had sacrificed his own daughter and pet dog. Before this, he had used parts of his wife's body for similar experiments. Hearing this, Edward was consumed with rage and beat Tucker mercilessly, almost killing him, but Alphonse arrived just in time to stop him. Tucker was arrested and imprisoned for taking the lives of his wife and daughter. Edward spent weeks searching through books to learn more about Laboratory 5 but found nothing. One evening at the library, a military general informed him that Laboratory 5 was actually the name of an old military storage room that was no longer in use. Hearing this, Edward immediately headed there with his team. Meanwhile, a military captain investigating Laboratory 5 discovered it was actually a massive magical circle, possibly used for large-scale experiments. He attempted to report this to his superiors but was intercepted by Lust. The captain barely managed to escape and called the general, but Envy, disguised as Colonel Mustang, arrived and killed him. The plan was to frame Mustang for the murder, which worked, as several witnesses reported seeing him commit the crime. Mustang was arrested, and the mad alchemist Tucker managed to escape from prison. Edward and his friends were also arrested due to their association with Mustang and were locked in a room. However, Edward cleverly broke out with his friends and stole a car to reach Laboratory 5. There, they found Colonel Mustang engaged in a fight with Gluttony. Mustang snapped his fingers, igniting Gluttony in flames. It seemed he had lost his mind, but soon Gluttony's form changed, revealing it was actually Envy in disguise. Lust and her gang arrived, and Lust stabbed Mustang in the stomach. As she tried to escape, Edward chased her to an empty room with a massive magical circle. Before Edward could comprehend the situation, Tucker appeared, holding a Philosopher's Stone. He revealed that the military had been producing thousands of these stones in this facility. Tucker explained that to bring someone back from the dead, sacrifices were necessary, and high-ranking military officers would often sacrifice prisoners to resurrect their loved ones. Edward was horrified. Lust suddenly appeared and killed Tucker for revealing these secrets. It was then revealed that Lust herself had been created through alchemy, making her far more powerful than an ordinary human. The mastermind behind the operation, a general, then arrived. He explained that his true goal was to create an army of supernatural beings like Lust, who was one of his strongest warriors. He turned on the lights, revealing thousands of lifeless robots hanging from the ceiling. The general used Philosopher's Stones in cylinders to activate the robots, which came to life one by one. Ecstatic at his creation, the general approached the robots, but they soon turned on him and devoured him. Colonel Mustang, Alphonse, and Winry arrived and joined Edward in fighting the robots. However, the sheer number of robots overwhelmed them, and they believed they would not survive. Mustang then revealed that the robots could be destroyed by smashing their heads together, and the team began using this method. Despite their efforts, the robots were too many, forcing Edward and his team to retreat. They encountered Lust and her gang outside. Though Mustang was injured, he summoned all his strength and unleashed a powerful flame attack, burning Envy to ashes. Mustang then attacked Lust, but it was futile as she kept regenerating. Lust revealed that her chest contained a Philosopher's Stone, which gave her immense power. Edward, Alphonse, and Mustang launched a coordinated attack on her. Mustang risked his life to extract the Philosopher's Stone from Lust's chest, instantly killing her. Gluttony, witnessing this, fled in fear. After their victory, Mustang handed the Philosopher's Stone to Edward so he could restore his brother's body. Edward began the alchemy process but was transported to the Gate of Truth. There, he found Alphonse in his original physical form. Edward realized he had to give the Philosopher's Stone to the Shadow at the gate to fully restore his brother. However, at the last moment, Edward hesitated. He decided not to use the stone for personal gain, as he now understood how many lives had been destroyed to create it. Edward returned to reality and apologized to Alphonse for not being able to restore his body. Alphonse forgave him, saying he no longer wanted to rely on alchemy, as it had brought nothing but tragedy to their lives. They agreed to stay away from alchemy as much as possible. In the end, Edward watched a new sunrise, signifying a fresh start in their lives.